our great honor to take part in the VCET 2017. My name is Mr. Luke, and today I and my partner, Phan would like to present our research with the title Novel Methods Using RNA Template for Detection of BRAF Mutations with Superior Sensitivity in Thyroid Cancer. As we all know, genetic information is preserved in the DNA molecules and transferred into the RNA molecules and then synthesize the protein which determine the phenotype of organisms. So analyzing the DNA and RNA sequences will help us answer the questions relating to the human health, especially cancers.
Recent researchers have proven that the BRAF mutated gene is a very common mutation in various types of cancer, such as the thyroid cancer, the melanoma carcinoma, and the colorectal cancer. And furthermore, precisely detecting the existence of these mutations not only help us in the prognosis and the diagnosis of a tumor stage, but also in deciding the most appropriate treatment therapy to each thyroid cancer patients. However, current technology based on the DNA templates such as the sequencing technology and the allele-specific PCR, has inadequate sensitivity with the greatest sensitivity of only 1%, which can easily miss patients with low mutation frequency. Therefore, it provides a need to develop a new technology with better sensitivity in order not to miss out patients.
So our work aims to make us first to develop and optimize a novel methods using RNA templates for detections of BRAF mutations with high sensitivity, and second to apply novel methods for detections of common BRAF in FFP tissues from thyroid cancer patients.
The novel technology is the first to utilize the RNA as a template for mutation detection instead of the DNA as current method. And furthermore, in the novel technology, we have successfully employed the extendable clocking curve in order to efficiently lock the mismatch priming, therefore increase the sensitivity of the new technology by 10 to 30 folds. And finally, our research has successfully applied the novel technology on FFP tissues of thyroid cancer patients in order to detect BRAF mutations.
And we conducted our research on 62 samples consisting of 22 thyroid cancer patients and 13 non-malignant thyroid tissues. And we also used the reasons and the modern facilities in our experiment. And these above are the research methods we have used. And here is the research process. The first step was the prepare and design the sensitive these mutations specific primers and the blocking probe. And secondly, we optimize the new technologies and evaluate the sensitivity. And then we apply the new technology to identify BRAF mutations in tissue samples. And finally, there was the comparison and conclusion step.
And now we'd like to present the results that our research has achieved. Firstly, we have completed the overview of the novel method for BRAF mutation detection, consisting of two main phases. The first phase is allele-specific reverse transcription. In this phase, we use the mutation specific primer with the 5N tail and the extendable blocking curve without the 5N tail in order to distinguish between the RNA of the mutated gene and the RNA of the non-mutated one. And the second phase is real-time PCR phase, in which we can specifically amplify the comprehensive DNA synthesized from the mutated RNA. Therefore, we can detect the existence of the mutation in the tissue samples.
And from the RNA samples isolated from the tissue samples are tested for purity and concentrations by the laboratory spectral photometer, and the results are qualified to proceed with other experiments. And we also compare the RNA and DNA concentrations of proteins by the real-time PCR assays, and the results show that the RNA concentrations is 10 times higher than the DNA.
And also employing the real-time PCR assay, we have assessed the sensitivity of the novel method for BRAF mutation detection, and we got the result that the sensitivity of a novel technology is approximately 0.5 per 10,000. With this sensitivity, the novel technology could concentration range of 1 per 1,000 to 1 per 10,000, which is superior to now current methods with the radius sensitivity of only 1%.
So after we optimize the new technologies can apply to detect BRAF mutations in current patient samples, and we also compare to the now prevalent sequencing technology.
And surprisingly, among 32 malignant tissue samples, we examined the novel method utilizing the RNA template could identify 53.1% of those patients carrying BRAF mutations. On the other hand, the now prevailing sequencing technology could only identify 14.6% of those patients carrying BRAF mutations. In other words, 4 patients carrying BRAF mutations could have been missed by using the now prevailing sequencing technology, which is equivalent to 23.5% of the number of patients carrying BRAF mutations. So, the novel method using the RNA template has helped us to precisely identify patients with BRAF mutation.
So by doing so, the patient's keep low mutation frequencies and the tumor invasive degree and the patient's response, the new technology has helped in direct cancer treatment strategies.
And furthermore, by helping us to early prognosticate patients with drug resistance, the novel technology has helped us to give timely decisions to switch to targeted therapies, therefore remarkably increase the treatment outcome of patients and their survival rates.
So in conclusion, we have established a method using RNA template for detection of BRAF mutations with superior sensitivity, and secondly, we successfully applied the new technology for detection of BRAF mutations in clinical samples of thyroid cancer.
This is the end of our research. We are grateful for your full attention. Equally this, we would like to receive advices and comments and also questions from all the councils in order to refine our research. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, because I had chat with work in the next previous file, right? So actually, I already say about one mention, one feature. You already detect one specific mutation,
Yes.
and you haven't made that clear in here. You should, right? Yes, yes. Chat about yes. So that's why you compare between the sequencing and real-time PCR, it's a bit different. And
Question. You?
okay, I have a question. So in you have the primer. In the primer, you can show that slide again. You know, and you have the blocking primer and the yes, mutation primer, blocking probe, right? So you sure that with the blocking probe, you can prevent all the hybridization of the reverse primer because the reverse primer, what's the difference? Yes.
Thank you for your questions. And the answer is that the difference between the mutated specific primer and the external blocking probe are, firstly, it is the attachment point, which is the external blocking probe, and the differ from the mutated mutation specific primer at only one point of nucleotide, one specific mutated point of the nucleotide. However, since the length of the attachment space of the external blocking probe and the mutated specific primer is only 10 nucleotides, since it is a primer used in the reverse transcriptions. Therefore, the difference of only one nucleotide represents 10% of the constructions, and therefore it is adequate to prevent the hybridization of the RNA, the mutated RNA, and the external blocking probe. And furthermore, the mutation-specific primer has the 5' tail, and the external blocking probe doesn't. And by using this difference, we can DNA synthesized from the mutated RNA and the comprehensive DNA synthesized from the wild-type RNA in the real-time PCR assays phase, and therefore we can detect resistance of mutations.
Thank you. But you need to control the condition of this stack, the priming stack. And what condition? What the condition for this priming stack?
Excuse me, did you ask the
What
condition?
what temperature?
Oh, the temperature. The temperature is 50 Celsius degree. This temperature is lower than the 60 Celsius degree attaching temperature of the real-time PCR phase, and therefore we design the attachment space of only one number.
If you want to detect the mutant gene, so why you don't choose another tools, another method, for example, like the PCR? Why you focus on the RNA?
Oh yes.
Yeah. And I don't understand why your method have the higher sensitivity than the normal method.
Than the sequencing.
Firstly, I'm so grateful to your questions, and we focus on the RNA molecule since the RNA molecule has the concentration about 10 times higher than the DNA's concentrations in the tissue samples, which we have proven in one of our results here, that the concentration of the RNA of BRAF genes is 10 times higher than the DNA's. And furthermore,
Why the concentration of the RNA is higher, 10 times more than more than the DNA?
Yes.
Why?
Well, thank you. My answer is that it has been proven that the concentration of RNA molecules are generally higher than the concentration of a DNA molecule in tissue samples, since that the RNA exists in the cells with only 2 copies of a gene. However, those 2 copies are transcribed into the RNA molecule, and therefore the concentration of the RNA is always higher and is generally sometimes is often higher than the concentration of the DNA. And the 10 times number in this research is the number that we given after a time of experiments and real quantifications.
But you know, the cells, it cells correction mechanism. You know, so that is the natural mechanism. So in the case, if you base on the RNA, whether the mutant is already correct.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for your questions. This is a very interesting question. Actually, I've never been asked questions. And yes, but I would like to make clear that in our research, we focus on developing a new technology for detection of mutation in cancer patients, which help direct cancer treatments. And therefore, if a gene is transcribed into an RNA molecule and then it is fixed, the mutation is fixed. However, if there is still the RNA molecule, and it will still translate into the protein, and it still shows the disease still shows, and therefore I believe that by using the RNA molecule, we takes it closer to the real to actually really assess the mutation results on the patients and the tissues.
So the experiment channel you watch often.
During recent years, I've been, cramped with all the exams and work, so I don't actually go on TV as much, but I love to watch HBO. I think it's like Game of Thrones thing.
So I see that you are able to detect the mutation, right?
Yes. So how about the sensitivity? Yes. The sensitivity of this technology has been assessed in our research and is shown in one of our results that the sensitivity is approximately 0.5 per 10,000. And with this sensitivity, the novel technology can easily identify mutation within the concentration range of 1 per 1,000 to 1 per 10,000, which patients with those mutations frequencies can easily be missed by now prevailing technology based on the DNA template, which their greatest sensitivity of only 1%. Therefore, they can easily miss patients with the mutation frequency of 1 per 1,000 to 1 per 10,000. And we can detect them by using the novel technology.
Thanks. Okay, so besides advantages, so your method RNA have some disadvantages compared with the DNA. So if they antigen state, what is that? And how can you overcome that?
Yes. Thank you for your questions. And it's a very realistic question actually. And we also have thought of this idea. And it is undeniable that the RNA molecule is from more fertile than the DNA molecule, and it requires harder purification process and harder and harsher conditions in order to preserve. But however, as I have been acknowledged, the RNA molecule is widely researched in most laboratories for the the activeness of the gene. And therefore, I believe that those facilities to isolate and preserve RNA is widely common in various laboratories. And I think the the application of this technology cannot be prevented or be prevented by those obstacles.
Instead of friend, answer more questions now.
Any more questions?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Montawi, and in my friend in Punyata. We are come to work at high school and in public school.
I would take up this topic, wheelchair operates by first lecture, and there are two reasons why I made this decision. The first reason is I want to have the disabled to move easily, and the second reason is my family. When we saw that our grandfather has a big struggle, we want to have him feel happier. Due to that, we asked our teachers and we together met. When we together talk and make an electric wheelchair, so that our invention has made to help people who are the same as our grandfather.
That's all? So the question then, right? So in your system, can you tell us how you can prevent, the accidentally miscontrol of your system? Whenever you use the head to control the system, maybe they can move the head accidentally. You can change. you understand the question?
With that, we have cleaned this problem and we
Do you have any kind of abbreviation? Because in this case, I suppose accidents may happen. For example, like moving the hat too fast, the hat or like on the side.
We can move for price and
Okay, next question.
So, which part is I have done by myself in this project? Like designing, buying the model, or buying the sensor from the market and assembling them together, like every part done by myself. How long have you been that? How you done with it? How long you spend time? 6 months. And what you have done? What you have done in that 6 months? Can you tell us like briefly about the process you have done, like first and second the steps you have done in this project?
first
Take your time, you don't need to answer right or like you want to discuss together? It's okay. So you want to move to the next question?
So your wheelchair was designed to move on the flat ground without any cross conditions like upstairs or downstairs. Just only were designed to move on the flat ground.
Can your wheelchair run on uneven surface? Uneven surface. Because here we see that it's only on flat surface. Okay? Flat surface. So now if the surface is not even, like from the pavement to the road,
wheelchair can run.
Okay.
that's fine.
You're done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we take again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me today. It is our honor to be here to show you about our project, Easy System, converting water, seawater into fresh water. First of all, I want to mention about overall about DC. As you can see here, the price is not too high, about $70 to $150. And the water creation is not even quite normal, about 3 to 5 liters per hour. And also the capacity is not very high, just 100 to 200 watts. Especially, this system is not bulky design and not depend on external factors. And also, the structure is quite simple. Now we will move to the solution and existing technology.
Here's one solution that we can find in the world today. And this is low capacity system. As we can see on the screen, this is a solar metal thermometers. Let's use the radiation from the sun to create the fresh water. And this is the Fox-Snell system. Is collect water in the air and create the fresh water. They are very simple to be built, but the water creation capacity is very low. It's not enough to provide for many people. And they are the medium capacity system. This is an artificial water system. They are quite simple. First, we must provide for we must require many energy to work, and the water creation capacity is not high, and it's not enough to provide water. And they are high capacity system. As you can see, the reverse opposite. Athens is very perfect to replace by any metal cell in the world today because it can create more water than any metal else. But they have the cost very high. Because just this system has the cost more than $3,500, and normal people cannot buy them. And here are some principles. Here is the basic system, our system. First, the principle theory. The seawater is pumped go through the nano material filters. And this material can absorb some harmful matter. And when the water go inside the system, it just contains a very few surface like salt. And then we turn on the solid system, and it's used to separate the water into the tiny particle with the size in nanometer, and it can easily absorb the heat from the fractional lens, from the outside environment, from the sun and the petrol chips. And turn the water into the steam. And the petrol chips also can cool down the temperature in the system and create the water. And this is the fresh water that we can use.
And I would like to talk about the details of each part. The first is the water pump. As you already know, in our system, the pump plays two roles. One is pump the seawater into the separating chamber. And second is provide the water for the nozzle, which we will mention before. And second, the absorbing system. As you can see here, this particle is made of clay, hoops, and nano ions. It has the absorbing surface about 100 square meter. And one more special thing is that when we use on the absorbing space, we can take it out, dry it, and then we use it again. And moreover, these particles can absorb many organic and heavy metals such as cadmium, arsenic. And here's the principle of the ultrasonic waves. It's just piezoelectric, and it's worked by the instant pressure, I mean the low pressure gas and the vacuum balloon. And here is the stainless steel plate system. As you can see here, there we place 6 nozzles in the space of the system. And here the press lens. We take it out from the TV screen, and it's it's very light, and we can see it everywhere, and it's especially very cheap. Finally, is our battery chip. Here's the structure. And we use two sides of the battery chip. One is create the hot air, and the other the cool air. The hot air has to evaporate the steam at the other chamber, and that leads to the condensing chamber, which use the cold air. As you can see here, yes, the comparing it represent in the same price, and we also mentioned clearly in our report. And to create 1 liter of water from DC, it's only take about 40 watts. And since our system is not very careful, is the design of the residential scale, which we will develop in the future. And here's the price.
And if we buy a reverse osmosis system, it costs more than $3,500. It's very expensive for a normal person. And there's no need to use a system that has the very high capacity like reverse osmosis system. But with the VC system, we just pay for $70, and have a system can provide for more than 50% on the boat.
Here are some pictures about our system. And here is a small video.
We turn on the ultrasonic system, and it's separate the water.
And one more thing we want to mention, this system is the first method in the world which uses the ultrasonic device compound with the gaseous chip to create fresh water from seawater. That's all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I have some questions for you. So, what's the frequency of the solar device you have? Frequency. Have you measured that?
Our ultrasonic device will fluctuate at the frequency about 1.7 megahertz.
Megahertz. How can you measure that? It's very high. Why high frequency?
We don't measure that because this method is applied in the world today in the release steam for the air for bird, and the scientists have proved that.
Usually, yes. But you need to measure the frequency, right? Or estimate that through your chip or somehow, right? So that's one point. And also, you have tested durability, how durable the solar device. Because when it fluctuates that strong, right? It can broken quite quickly.
Well,
how long your machine has run? How many hours has it run?
Actually, the capacity of our system it depends on the capacity of the ultrasonic device. And about 1 hour, it can separate 3 to 5 liters. And I think it's just piezoelectric, so it do not be harmed by the external effect.
No, because the solar, when it fluctuates like that. And what the material? What the material of the solar bar that you have? What material? Yeah, you can show it again. Yes.
The material is the piezoelectric.
to create the fluctuation,
Yes.
but to create the solar wave, you need some mechanics part, right? So some memory to fluctuate to create the solar wave. What's the deal?
Well, I think because the water is separated from the surface is because this hydroelectric fluctuate with a very high frequencies and which we use,
Piezoelectric in Vietnamese, we use a metal we call gỗ chữ.
Okay. Okay, so move along. Say that, right?
Yeah. Lady first. Yeah, I'm not an expert in this field. So I have an impression you're making simple things complicated. Because the main principle here is evaporation and then condensation. Why do you have to filter the water, provide it with outer wave, solar wave, and like a lot of other things? When finally what you have to do is to evaporate the water and then condense the vapor or the steam into water. And why do you have to filter it? Why do you have to treat it with solar wave? And then why do you have to treat it with other devices? Can you explain that?
Well, firstly, I want to mention that at the first we used the blocking filter system, and we found that yes, really, it's very easy to grow. And then we use the absorption system to filter the seawater and absorb some organics and some harmful filter. And
Excuse me, because I know that you evaporate the seawater, right?
yes,
And then you condense the steam, right?
yes,
In that process, any waste, any mineral, any other things will stay behind because they can't go with the steam, right? So why do you have to filter the seawater?
because in the seawater today there are some phenols in the seawater, also the POPs, and then we have to filter the seawater. And our main principle is not, is the ultrasonic wave. When we separate the water from the surface, yes, as you can see from the video, it vaporizes instantly, and we don't need to provide very high heat, about 100 degrees.
If we don't use filter, some harmful surface can follow the water it can turn into the steam and follow the water, and this system is not designed for prevent the steam. Some harmful can
Can be both.
yes.
Okay. And so that provokes me an idea. Like, why don't you use just a filter, which can filter out the salt from the water and no other harmful chemicals, and then we have fresh water immediately, and we don't have to go through different, very complicated procedures.
Yes, that is the reverse osmosis system which I mentioned before. And as you already know, the cheapest system of the reverse osmosis is about $3,500.
No, not really. Because actually, your idea is not new. I don't know why this year you received such a high price, because last year and the year before, this idea was explored. And like a team from Amsterdam High School, they use egg cells, membrane from egg cell, and then they just pour water through the membranes, and then we have fresh water immediately. They don't have to divide to build up a very complicated machines like yours.
You want to argue by? It's okay to argue by.
Yeah.
Well,
Actually, I already know about the acid down project,
Yeah.
and
What is new in yours?
In my system, we use the ultrasonic system. It creates a surface that's bigger than normal 2,000 times. So our capacity is very, very high, higher than the other metals.
And actually, I have another question for you. Because you said like you have to spend around like 40 watt for 1 liter of water.
Yes.
And I doubt it very much because you know the energy conservation theory. And then like you use the solar cell, okay, to move the water and to evaporate it, like to make it into steam, right?
yes, yes.
Yeah. So I suppose.
Actually, the ultrasonic device it will separate the water into steam, and the steam will evaporate instantly in the water. As you can see, it's just like smoke.
Yeah, I know. So, what device or what tool do you use to measure the amount of energy used in evaporating 1 liter of seawater? What device? Because in order to evaporate 1 liter of water, it consumes a lot of energy.
We don't use the device. We just calculate because we have some device and we have the capacity of each device, and we can based on the time we use, and we can go to the conclusion.
Yeah, you have a table, you can show that table, right? That's your calculation. But it's better to have the
The
calculation.
tool, the calculator, not the calculation.
No, they have the table. Yeah.
I know. Because here, what kind of tool they use in order to calculate the amount of energy consumed.
They haven't measured the whole.
Yeah. Because to evaporate 1 liter of water is really a big matter. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, because your device is really useful and interesting, you know. It's very useful to life.
Do you have one in your house now? Do you have one in your house now?
Yes, and
They have.
No, I have
They
at home.
have an actual machine, yes.
Do you have one machine like this, like to make fresh water for your everyday need? For your family? Yes or no? Or is this one just an experimental device?
Oh, my family just use the water from the factory, and
Okay.
it's
Yeah, they
good.
have. It's a good thing.
actually to apply this to reality. Yes, we have to design more about the material because it's just a project, and then we
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I just wonder if you use it at home. Anyway, thank you. You've done a great job. Thank you.
I want to ask about applications of this appliance. You said it is carryable. This means that the fishermen can use it on their boat, right? If they go fishing for a long time, like 3 days or 1 week or even 1 month. And I want to ask about like for the cell membrane, if you watch filters, somehow we need to wash and reactive again. So how about your equipment, appliance? So how many times you can do and how much volume of water you can make?
well, actually about 100 gram of this particle, it can absorb to 7 to 8 microgram of heavy metals, and it's according to our calculation, we have to take this particle out and dry it after we filter about 100 layers. And then after this particle is dried in the sun, it can be put in again and then reuse.
Okay, so how much volume of seawater you filter and then you need to change the nanoparticles in So how much water? How much seawater?
Yes, I just lesson for is about 100 liter for 100
liter.
gram. Yes.
Move it, take it out, dry it, and then
Yeah.
put it in again.
Change, you need it. How much?
Okay, another questions. So you said you can transfer the seawaters into waters. I want to ask about your outcome waters. How about the physical properties and also chemical properties? And you have some certifications for your outcome waters. It's good enough for drinking or
Actually,
eating waters.
We have the test report from the water company in our province.
Okay.
As you can see here, here's the
Drinkable water.
yes, it's drinkable. In the normal, yes, this figures is 500 is a fresh water, and here are just 1 to 3.1, and it's drinkable. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Which your project now? Thuyet. Welcome to our presentation. Our project is called Psychological Support for Children Suffering from Thalassemia in National Institute of Hematology and Blood Transfusion. Our group has 2 members. My name is Phan and I'm Thuyet. We come from a different school. Thalassemia is one of the most common genetic abnormality in the world. According to WHO, 7% of population in the world have thalassemia gene, and 1% couple is at risk of having a baby getting this or having thalassemia gene. Our project focuses on the children between the age of 6 and 15. As you know, this is when they first go to primary school and ends when they are in the middle of adolescence. Look at these faces. They are so very innocent and poor, but they have to carry the illness. They all have distinctive features, such as pale skin due to the lack of red blood cells. Their nose bridge is low, their face bone structure is deformed, and the long-term fatigue is ringed on their faces. Look at this picture. You can see that the boy in the middle actually could have lived in his age and play comfortably with his friends, but he was not able to do that because when the blood pack is always in his head, it hinders his normal life and his future. Our purpose of the research is first to integrate the psychological studies of children suffering from thalassemia. Secondly, we integrate method for psychological support process for children suffering from thalassemia. And lastly, we propose activities for psychological support process for them. After 6 months doing research in International Institute of Hematology and Blood Transfusion, we conclude that thalassemia children have depressive and anxiety symptoms are in high frequency, such as they want to cry, feel extremely bored, too lonely. They have recurring nightmares, dizziness, and cramps. Also, they feel self-deprecating. They have fear of body destruction. They feel important. They feel dependent on blood transfusion, and they all are very uncertain about their future. The research results show that thalassemia children happiness index is not high. They feel dependent and don't have future orientation. They are frailty and fear physical destruction. From the symptoms, we suggest 3 solutions. The first one is to provide information about thalassemia disease. The second one is to provide skills for the patient, and the last one is to provide psychological support for them. In conclusion, thalassemia patients suffer a great disadvantage of health and mental health. Psychological support focuses on cognitive, emotional, behavioral aspects that help patients to strengthen mental health and be able to set their own goal. And lessen burden for other people. All the support that help patients to develop their self-leadership and emotion management, adapt to changing circumstances in life. Lastly is our recommendation. With the patients, they have to understand clearly who they are and what can they do. With their parents, the parents have to help empathize to the patients, find information about the illness and the demand of their children. And the hospital needs at least one mental health staff to support patients, and the doctor should also be trained about psychological support. And last but not least, the people around the patient are also the important factor that help to build a friendly environment for patients. Thank you for listening. Coming to this competition, our duty is not only be young scientists, but also to spread awareness about thalassemia children and their disadvantage. We hope that you will take notice and let them plan. And to be honest, we haven't had much time as we just finished it yesterday night. If you give us more time, we will bring you a more detailed and more complete presentation. Thank you so much.
Can you say more detail? What the details about?
Detail about the solutions. Detail about all the symptoms of the patients.
So how many patients you have worked with?
About 32 patients.
In the same hospital?
Yes.
So you don't want to try out one? In other city, in other
Because
provinces?
our time is very short. We only have 6 months to work with the nurses and the doctors in the National Institute of Hematology and Blood Transfusion. So if our project will be wide and more complete with many more patients to work with.
So you think like how long you need to get it done? Like,
Maybe more 6 months.
okay. So do you like our project? Do you like the dog project?
Yes, we love it.
Okay, which part you like the most?
The part we like most is when we work with the patient in the hospital, we can talk to them and find out what they need and also their personality. Play with them.
Any memory you want to share with us? Any?
Do you want good memories or bad memories?
Any?
Any memorable?
Something memorable? Something you want to share? Something?
One time, there's some volunteers come to the hospital to play with the children that have thalassemia, and one of the volunteers want to hand out the scissors to the patients, but the manager in that section of the hospital said that no, he shouldn't hand them the scissors because one of the patients in the past had taken a scissor and cut cut the string that connect the blood bag and their patient. Yeah. Because they thought that if they cut it, they can escape the hospital, escape their illness and come back to their friends and families. So after that story, we just feel that their illness and their mental health is not cared enough, and we must raise awareness about them.
Okay, thanks.
So Do you know any similar study in Vietnam or in foreign countries for the patient with disease?
As we know, I'm not sure about in the whole world, but in Vietnam, there hasn't been a specific research focused on their mental health.
Okay. So, what is the different or the new novelty of your study with the previous study?
I think that the new points are because all the researchers in the past they are like adults, and if we are like teenagers and we have been in their state from 6 to 15 years old, so we can understand more about their mental health, their problems in the school, and also we can talk, we can communicate with them easier because we are closer. Because
Okay, so you can communicate
Yeah.
with them. But is there any part of your study reflects the point you just made about that you can understand the patient better besides the communication, because communication is hard to record, right? You understand
Yes,
because
I
of
understand.
stimulation. Is the study design is there any different? Maybe the question may pose different or something.
The difference in the research, I think that our solution is to the first solution is to provide psychological support for the patients. In detail, we talk to them. They confess to us their feelings. If they are happy or they are sad. All those things they cannot talk to the nurses or the doctors or the parents. And with other researchers that are 20 or 30, they also cannot have the same close relationships as they have with us. So that
Thank you, I
is
understand. So actually, with that you can put that into a solution, right?
yes.
Supporting group, something like that. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So I have two questions for you. First of all, so I want to ask, in the hospitals for children, so they know children suffering from seriously diseases, for example, cancers, leukemias, so why did you choose the patients with this disease, thalassemia?
Because most of the people think like you. They don't take care of the children like them. They use the thing that the children who has the more serious problems should have another. So we do the work that our people.
Yeah, so that's the
As
necessary.
the awareness about this illness is not very high, as our friends, our parents, and also our teachers in our school did not have any clue what the illness is and how the patients feel, so that they left the patient behind and they focus more on the cancer patient or the HIV patient. The thalassemia patient do not have enough care for their mental health because simple. Just focus on more serious and more deadly illness. The more simple and the more simple and not that deadly illness will left behind.
Okay, the second question. So actually, the closest people with this patients, this case, is their parents. So even you can influence their mental conditions or physical conditions a lot, but you did not affect their parents. Raise the awareness of their parents. So can you show the problem at the bottom of that problem?
With the parents, because mostly the patients come from poor provinces and mountainous area. So making money is one of the biggest problems with their families. If the parents always focus on the money and their process of curing the illness, but not so they will not have enough time to care about their children's mental health. So that is one of the problems.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. No more questions.